with the first candidate on the, actually we'll start, we'll start again here with Mr. Gay on this side. The high price of gas is hurting all of us. What would you recommend be done immediately to bring those prices down?
Immediately, the federal government could remove their tax off of that fuel and make it a little easier for people. And we could also just say we're going to drill for oil. Just start issuing permits to drill offshore, onshore, to unleash American oil, to allow the XL pipeline. The Keystone pipeline already exists. The XL pipeline was going to cover that same territory and was going to bring oil from a friendly neighbor to our local area, to our district, to be processed. And a quarter of that oil, a quarter of the oil coming through that pipeline is American oil that's being stored in the Dakotas and Oklahoma, and it was going to be brought down here. This is not new oil. This is oil so that we are not in any kind of a bad situation with Hugo Chavez in Venezuela or Mexico. This is oil that we know we can count on, not from unruly despots that may try to cut off our supply of oil.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. And now we move on to Mr. Gonzalez. For you, if elected, what would be your first proposal to help turn around our economy?
The first thing that I would do is I would institute a policy that allows American businesses to have a corporate tax rate at 0. What I want to do is I want to take the corporate tax rate, take it down to 0% for 5 years, and then every year thereafter raise it 1% until it tops out at 9%. The only way that we're going to fix the trade deficit, right now we can't do that because China can call our loan anytime they want. So we can't compete on that level. So what I want to do is I want to get the corporate tax rate down to 0, allow businesses to come back home, allow businesses here to produce American jobs. And as soon as we start producing American jobs, we start producing American goods. And when we produce American goods, when we go to consume, we now have a choice: Chinese or American. I choose American. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Ms. Harris, how would you increase American support of space exploration and NASA, considering that this district does cover the Johnson Space Center?
Actually, the Johnson Space Center is not in this district, but many of the people that work at the Johnson Space Center do live in this district, and so I would definitely support the expansion or the promotion of NASA and the Johnson Space Center. Look, I mean, we wouldn't. How many of you have GPS in your car right now? It's because of the work that was done at the Johnson Space Center, I'm told. It is a vital part of our nation, and it's something that we absolutely have to protect. And it is jobs, high-paying jobs, well-skilled jobs, right here in this district that drive our space exploration and our space inventions. And we use these things right here at home. It also helps in national security. GPS has been around for a lot longer than you and I know about it. It's been around in the military for a long time. It's only recently come to the consumer market. And it got into the military and was used in the military because of the work that was done at Johnson Space Center, I'm told. So we absolutely have to protect it and protect those jobs. And I'll work with Congressman Olson and whoever gets elected into District 36 to make sure that that area and that program stays vital to this district.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. As you can see, the redistricting has me confused as well, and that's why I probably need a GPS to get home tonight. Thank you. And now we move on to, we're going to keep it the same since, I won't get lost. It's Mr. Mansius. We would like to know, how would you describe your political philosophy?
The least government is the best government. The closest we can get our governments to our people, counties, cities, the better the government will be. Government can get in the way more often than it can do good things, but there are some issues that government can do. They can help enable. They can create formats for how business can take place. They can create the marketplace by staying away and doing the kinds of things. Sometimes in our transportation systems, private investment will not go in and do them. So government has played a very, very critical role in helping to build our transportation. But if you look at what the federal government has done, it's forced on the states how the transportation is going to be, at least since the middle of the 50s. We need to take the ideas of those in the local areas when we do these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Old, we would move on now to, what are the most important steps you would take to produce jobs in the district and the country?
first thing I'd like to do is to take a few things away. Take away these oppressive regulations that are being passed and oppressive laws that are being passed, like Obamacare or Dodd-Frank, and there's any number of others that are harming our economy and preventing job growth. The next thing is I would like to focus on our energy, because the energy industry here, as I said earlier, is truly the backbone of the American economy. So we built the Keystone Pipeline. We provide for drilling offshore. We create opportunities in our system to allow alternative fuels to be developed in due course. And we create an environment with our tax code that actually makes us competitive with the world. We make a flat, simple, and fair tax code that allows us to compete and to pay back our debts.
Thank you, Mr. Old. Now we move to Mr. Sargent. What would you do to reduce or eliminate the federal deficit?
First thing I do is I call for an amendment to have a balanced budget. But in doing that, there are two ways you can balance a budget. You can reduce spending, or you can increase taxes. So I would want to be very careful the way I crafted it, so that we make sure that we don't try to balance the budget by increasing taxes, because I oppose increasing taxes. The other thing I would do is any bill that comes before me in a kind of committee that I sit on, the first questions I'm going to ask does the Congress have the constitutional authority to actually authorize and fund that activity? If it does, then the question is going to be, what's the benefit, what's the cost? Not just the cost of administering it, but the cost to the economy. I believe that the free market economy needs to work, and if you let it do it, it'll work well. But the way to reduce the budget is by holding the line on spending. Don't stop this stuff about I'm reducing spending. What you're actually doing is you're reducing the increase. We want to have true, actual deficit reduction. And part of a balanced budget amendment should include a set-aside for that.
Thank you. Mr. Truncale, as far as the approval rate of Congress, I checked last, it's somewhere low teens, ranging 13 to 19, depending on the day. What would you do to help change that?
The first thing we have to do is get this country going in the right direction by getting a control on spending. We have a $15 trillion debt that is growing by leaps and bounds every second. We must get spending under control, because the deficit is going to hurt our children, it's going to hurt our economy, and it's going to destabilize our currency. We must have a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution, because I simply do not trust Congress or any future Congress to control spending without one. And we must keep taxes low and regulations fair and not excessive, because excessive regulation and taxes kills jobs and sends jobs overseas. And we must overturn Obamacare. That's a $1 trillion expense that's going to interfere with your ability to get medical treatment from your doctor. It's going to create 111 agencies that we cannot afford. These are some of the reasons why people are upset with Congress. They can't control the spending.
Thank you, Mr. Truncale. Mr. Weber, would you support a part-time Congress, an idea raised by Governor Rick Perry during his campaign for president, or even a pay cap or pay cut for Congress?
Yes.
Yeah.
Angel, as you know, a Texas State Representative makes $600 a month. We are part-time legislators. We have to come back and live under the laws that we make. And I love that about being a Texas legislator. Congress ought to have to do the same thing. You want to see the deficit go down? Tie congressional salaries to the national deficit. If the deficit doesn't go down 10% next year, their salary does. You want to get the deficit line? Hit them in the pocketbook. Mark Twain said, if a man tells you how honorable he is, make him pay cash. You want to get the approval rating of Congress up? Hit him in the pocketbook where it hurts.
Yeah.
We need to have small business owners like myself in Congress. Sorry, but too many attorneys there now. We need people who run a business. I built mine from the ground up 30 years, made the hard decisions, took that to the Texas State Legislature, used that business experience, that solid conservative background, to say, we can't keep going on like we are, people. You got to make hard decisions. I did it in my business. I did it in the legislature. We need it in D.C.
Thank you, Mr. Weber, and I want you to see how